If you rely on Social Security, the numbers coming out of Washington right now are, well, they're painting a pretty complex picture for your future benefits. In this explainer, we're going to dive in and unpack the latest economic forecasts. We'll look way beyond just those headline numbers to see exactly how inflation, Medicare, and some looming massive deadlines are going to shape your retirement strategy. This is the exact question on the minds of millions of retirees right now, isn't it? Over the past few years, we've lived through incredibly intense inflation, which triggered historically high adjustments to your benefits. But as that inflation finally, thankfully, begins to cool down and the economy stabilizes, those massive percentage jumps we kind of got used to are starting to shrink. So what should we actually expect for 2027? Okay, let's get right to it. Based on the latest economic data, the Senior Citizens League is currently projecting a 2.8% cost of living adjustment, or COLA, for 2027. Early indicators suggested it could bounce anywhere from 2.2% to 2.8%, but right now a really steady trajectory is pointing directly to this 2.8% figure. And while it might seem small compared to the wild pandemic years, it actually signals a good thing. The cost of everyday essentials just isn't rising quite as aggressively as it was. So what does a 2.8% increase mean for your pocketbook in real dollars? Well, it gives the average retiree roughly $40 to $56 extra a month. If you're currently receiving a $3,000 benefit, you're looking at about a $75 raise. It's a realistic, grounded estimate that you can go ahead and plug right into your budget today. But here's a little behind-the-scenes reality check. These numbers, they aren't officially locked in until the government finishes reviewing third-quarter inflation data. They specifically track the Consumer Price Index, which is basically the everyday cost of goods for workers between July and September of 2026. Then, after a mid-October announcement, those shiny new payouts finally hit your bank account in January 2027. Section 1. Reality check. Gross versus net benefits. Before we get too excited about a raise, we have to talk about the catch. The crucial point here is that mandatory deductions can absolutely wipe out a massive chunk of your annual COLA increase. The biggest culprit by far is your Medicare Part B premium, which gets deducted straight out of your Social Security payment. Historically, healthcare costs rise way faster than general inflation. So if your Medicare premium jumps, it can easily gobble up that extra $40 or $50 you were supposed to get. And honestly, healthcare is just one piece of the puzzle. Even with a modest CLLA bump, your net benefit is constantly getting squeezed by localized housing costs. In major urban areas like Boston, New York, or LA, average rent often blows right past $2,000 for a simple one-bedroom apartment. When you factor in that most senior households already survive on just 58% of the income of working-age people, it becomes glaringly clear that standard federal inflation metrics just don't match your day-to-day reality at the grocery store or the pharmacy. This next piece of data is genuinely sobering. According to the Senior Citizens League, Social Security benefits have lost 20% of their purchasing power since 2010. 20%. It highlights a harsh truth. The COLA is merely a reactive tool designed to just barely maintain a baseline against past inflation. It is absolutely not a mechanism to build your wealth or improve your standard of living. Section 2. Navigating the SSI resource trap. Let's shift gears for a second. For folks relying on Supplemental Security Income, or SSI, which is an absolute lifeline for disabled adults and low-income seniors, the rulebook is totally different. As Congressional Budget Office projections lay out, federal SSI benefits are strictly calculated based on individual need and existing income. While SSI recipients will also get that same projected 2.8% COLA increase, taking the max federal monthly payment up to roughly $994 for an individual, the whole program is heavily restricted by asset tests. And here is the hidden trap that catches so many people off guard. These incredibly rigid asset limits haven't changed since 1989. Think about that. 1989, when gas was $1 and the World Wide Web literally didn't exist. Individuals are capped at having just $2,000 in countable resources, and married couples are capped at $3,000. The scariest part? The Social Security Administration checks your balance on the very first day of the month. If your bank account goes even one single dollar over that limit on the first, your entire SSI benefit gets suspended. Fortunately, it's not all doom and gloom. Not absolutely everything you own counts against you. To stay compliant, you just have to carefully track which of your assets are legally exempt. Your primary home doesn't count, no matter what it's worth. You're also generally allowed one vehicle, standard household goods, and small life insurance policies or burial funds, capped at $1,500. Knowing these exact exemptions is absolutely key to managing your money without tripping that suspension wire. Now, if you're trying to build a safety net, opening an ABLE account is basically a superpower. It's a tax-advantaged savings account, specifically designed for eligible individuals with disabilities. It actually allows you to safely save up to $100,000 for emergencies, housing, or healthcare, all without those funds ever jeopardizing your monthly SSI check. It is a total game changer. Section 3. The looming 2032 deadline. All right, zooming out from the day-to-day rules, we have to look at the massive macroeconomic storm cloud approaching the entire system in the year 2032. This is the heavily monitored, critical deadline when the Social Security Trust Fund is projected to face insolvency and completely run dry on its surplus reserves. Now, let's be clear, because there's a lot of fear-mongering out there. Insolvency does not mean Social Security goes bankrupt and completely vanishes. Taxes from current workers will still flow in. However, if lawmakers take absolutely no action to fix the system by the mid-2030s, the revenue coming in will only cover a portion of the bills. Every single beneficiary could be looking at a devastating, mandatory 24% reduction in their monthly checks. No one wants to see that happen. Section 4. Proposed Social Security fixes. So to prevent this mathematical cliff from becoming a reality, two completely different policy ideas are currently dominating the debate in Washington. On one side, the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget proposes something called the six-figure limit, basically capping payouts at $50,000 per person or $100,000 for a couple. On the flip side, various advocacy groups suggest an entirely different route, eliminating the payroll tax cap entirely. Right now, Americans only pay Social Security taxes on income up to $184,500. This proposal would rip that ceiling off, taxing all higher earnings. Both methods address the underlying insolvency math, but with vastly different outcomes. The $50,000 benefit cap would close about 3/5 of the program's projected 75-year shortfall. But completely removing the tax cap on high earners theoretically funds the system way, way longer, extending insolvency through at least the year 2090. And it does that without reducing payouts for any current beneficiaries. Unsurprisingly, when we actually look at public opinion, the response is pretty stark. Polling data from the Senior Citizens League shows massive, overwhelming opposition to the benefit cap proposal. 95% of seniors oppose any cap that functions as a benefit cut, especially for folks who have paid into the system their entire working lives and are now relying on those returns. Conversely, there's broad, unified support across all political lines. We're talking Democrats, Republicans, and independents for extending the program's finances through taxation instead. 77% of seniors support the idea of simply taxing incomes above that current $184,500 threshold to keep the trust fund solvent and avoid any mandatory cuts across the board. As we wait for those 2027 COLA numbers to finalize this October, the broader math is just staring us in the face. The ultimate question here isn't just what Congress will do by 2032, but what are you going to do today to protect your tomorrow? Do you have the alternative income streams and the portfolio diversification to weather a 24% cut if the absolute worst happens? Take this data, look hard at your budget, and start preparing right now. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep learning, keep planning, and I'll see you next time.